Hey everyone, and welcome to this edition of Just Parlays with Chris King. I'm Jim Williams, and the man in the box beside me there is Chris King. Christopher, as always, my friend, great to see you. And last night, for a while there, it looked like on Monday Night Football that is, the 125-mile trip from Cleveland to Three Rivers, not Heinz Field, not Three River Stadium, was a bus ride that Cleveland didn't want to take.
It seems like, they didn't show up for the majority of the game. I mean, they didn't block, they didn't run the ball, they did nothing offensively for pretty much the whole game. The defense was okay, but I mean, when you kept setting Pittsburgh up with short fields, I mean, even the punter got bored and shanked that punt in the second half where it went about 3 yards. I guess Cleveland, once they got eliminated, decided they weren't going to play. I mean, Kareem Hunt was supposed to play, and then all of a sudden, like I said, his foot or his ankle hurt too much, so he didn't play. They didn't hand the ball off to Nick Chubb. You're facing the league's worst rush defense, and you hand the ball off to a guy that has over 1,200 yards a dozen times in the whole game. And you can't blame it on game flow because for the longest time it was still a 2-score game late in the third quarter, and that was a 1-score game late in the third quarter.
Well, and it kept, but even though it was funny, when Pittsburgh was up 13-7, you would, there didn't seem to be a sense of urgency on Cleveland's part to score. I mean, they just, they're like sleepwalking their way through. And look, I don't want to slight Pittsburgh's defense. They sacked Mayfield 9 times, and Watt got 4 of them. So he's one shy of Michael's. I don't know. It was like the Night of the Walking Dead for Cleveland for some reason.
Yeah, they just look completely unmotivated. You have to wonder, are they going to do anything next week against Baltimore? Are they going to sleepwalk through the same thing? We've already heard Mayfield talking about how he's going to undergo surgery for that torn labrum that he's had since week 2. Why didn't he do it before? I mean, obviously, we might see Case Keenum under center, could see Nick Mullins, could see Bernie Kosar, maybe, Mike Pagel will come out of retirement.
Brian Sipe.
Hey, why not?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's any number of possibilities here. They travels to Baltimore. But situation with regard to that, and we talked a little bit in the pre-show about some decisions that Cleveland's going to have to make about Baker Mayfield, and Baltimore's going to have to make about Lamar Jackson. Meanwhile, Pittsburgh's going to have to find a quarterback because Ben's gone, and the guy who's going to start for them is not on the roster at this moment. So there's that going on. So looks like
so you basically got the one quarterback in the entire AFC North, and that's Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I was going to say Joe Burrow is the guy who now, in his third year, will become the elder statesman of that league, of that division, unless we see Baker get franchised and Lamar Jackson get franchised, and that's certainly possible. But
that's pretty much all you can really afford to do. You don't want to turn around and give these guys big money deals, considering how Mayfield has played this season and Jackson's been hurt. I mean, you can't really justify handing out a long-term contract to either one of those guys right now.
Yeah, there's no, nothing like indecision going into the offseason to make these guys feel really comfortable. Just one little quick shout out. I'd like to thank the Purdue University Boilermakers for ruining Monday. Thank you guys so much.
Big Monday. What a big dump that was.
Yeah.
The 2 times we've talked about Purdue playing good basketball, they turn around and just completely stink out the joint. They bombed out of the Mackey Arena, got beat by a Wisconsin team that, let's face it, isn't all that good offensively.
Mm-mm.
But, Purdue let them hang 74 points, and they just weren't knocking down shots, which is disappointing considering how good they are according to the numbers. And that's what we have to go off of. And I know the saying is on any given night somebody can beat somebody else, but you don't expect – a Wisconsin team that went into Ohio State and got waxed in Columbus, and then struggled to beat a couple of mid-major teams at home to go into the Mackey Arena where Purdue was 8-0 and win outright. But that's the way things went yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, and you're talking about one of the top 5 teams in the country. And, I guess they're not one of the top 5 teams in the country for the moment.
Or they won't be anymore.
Well, they won't be, next week, that's for sure.
I don't know what it was with Purdue. I mean, they have a size advantage. They didn't bother pounding the ball inside. You'd have to think that you would have given the ball more to Trevion Williams and Edey. Edey had 24 points.
Mm-hmm.
But, Williams was 3 of 8 from the floor and only had 9. He played 20 minutes, which doesn't make a lot of sense.
Right.
For some reason, Matt Painter didn't rely on his starters all that much. The only guy who played more than 28 minutes was Sasha Stefanovic, who played 37. Why are you not playing these guys bigger minutes? I mean, I understand, you're worried about conditioning and everything else. But if you look, the 2 biggest guys that we talked about for Wisconsin, Johnny Davis and Brad Davison, they both played 38 minutes last night, and that's the difference in the game. Right. You can't sit there and play starters 20, 22, 23 minutes in conference play in a conference like the Big Ten and expect to beat somebody else that's going to actually play their guys for an extended period. Yeah. And what happened was Davis had 37 points and 14 rebounds because Purdue didn't bother playing their guys for big minutes. I mean, Edey had 24 points and 10 boards in 10 minutes, or 20 minutes, I mean. You couldn't play him another 10 minutes? You couldn't play that guy 30 minutes? At 7'4", you don't think he could have made a difference in this basketball game? That's all on Matt Painter for poor management of his rotation. I understand he wanted to get 10 guys on the floor, and he did. But when the game's in the balance, you don't leave your best player sitting on the bench.
That's usually not a good plan. Well, before we get to college basketball, which is coming up, and we're taking a trip to Ohio. But before we head there, let's talk about our buddies at the Caesars Sportsbook. Now, they are the official sportsbook of Winners and Whiners. And if you go out there and make your first wager either on the app or on the online portal, folks at Caesars Sportsbook, because they like us, as you can see scrolling below, there is a promo code. If you use the promo code Video Winners, that's Video Winners, when you sign in to the book to make your first wager either on the app or online, they're going to match, that's right, match your dollar for dollar investment up to $1,000. How about that? So win, lose, or draw, they're going to match your first wager on their app or online for $1,000. Okay. So if you bet 100, they'll match the 100. It goes all the way up to 1,000. So what we want you to do is this. In the show box below, down there, is all the information on what you need to do to take advantage of this. But don't forget to use the promo code. Otherwise, you're not going to get that matching cash, and that's a big deal. So once again, if you make your first wager using Caesars Sportsbook app or online, use the promo code Video Winners. They will match your first bet all the way up to $1,000. Okay, you must be 21 years of age to play, and also, of course, you have to be in the state that the books are licensed in, and that all that information is in the show box below. And as Chris and I always say, bet responsibly. It's very important that you understand your limitations. We don't want you, nor does Caesars or anyone else, want you to bet irresponsibly. So have fun. Get to know the Caesars Sportsbook. You'll like it as like we like it. They're good buddies and they're good people. So check out Caesars. It's a great deal. Winners and Whiners, take advantage of that opportunity. It's free money, and who doesn't like free money, right? Okay, so off we go to Akron, where tonight the Zips will take the floor against the Ohio Bobcats and go in enlighten us, Mr. King, as to why the Zips are the pick tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a good game in the MAC. I mean, both these teams are good teams in that conference. The Bobcats are 10-2. The Zips are 8-3. John Gross has done a good job with Akron, replacing all the guys that they've lost in the last couple seasons. Ohio comes in winning 5 straight, but Akron has won 6 in a row, and they are 6-0 at home this season. The Zips lead the nation in free throw attempts per field goal attempt. They average .464 free throws per field goal, which helps them because they struggle at the line. They only shoot 66.4%. But when you get a lot of volume, you can afford to miss more shots. The Zips 124th in offensive efficiency. They're 143rd in effective field goal percentage. They're 104th from three-point range. Ohio, they're good at turning the ball over but on defense, but Akron doesn't commit a lot of turnovers themselves. Ohio just 2-6 against the spread in their last 8 overall. They are 0-4 against the spread in their last 4 against teams with a winning home record. Meanwhile, Akron 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 overall and 5-1 in their last 6 at home. They're also 4-1 in their last 5 against teams with a winning record. When you get right down to it, playing at home, the home team tends to have a lot of success in this series. The Zips, like I said, undefeated at home this season. The Bobcats have had their struggles away from Athens. Look for John Gross and the Zips to come up with a win over the Bobcats in Maction tonight.
There you go. All right, well, let's stay in the Midwest and head to the Big Ten.
Yeah, we're going to have Illinois going on the road to the Williams Arena in Minnesota to face the Golden Gophers. Illinois is 9-3 this season. Minnesota's 10-1. Their lone loss was to Michigan State. Illinois is 23rd in the nation in scoring offense at 81.2 points per game. They're 6th in rebounding by pulling down 43.1 boards a game. And they're 12th at shooting from beyond the arc at 39.7%. It's going to be a big issue, the size factor for Minnesota. Minnesota's just 291st in the nation in rebounding at 33.5 rebounds per game. So that's nearly 9.5 boards less than what you're getting out of Illinois. And they're a mediocre team when it comes to putting points on the board. They're 189th and scoring at 72 points per game. I know Ben Johnson, everybody's talking about what a great job he's done taking over for the departed Richard Pitino, who then took Jamal Mashburn Jr. with him to New Mexico. But the problem for Minnesota is going to be containing Kofi Cockburn. He's averaging 21.8 points and 12.1 boards a game. He's a 7-foot guy that can shoot from about 15 to 18 feet, and he's also likes to dunk all over people. Minnesota doesn't have a guy that can match up with him size-wise. Their biggest starter is Eric Curry at 6'9". Cockburn's 7 feet and goes probably a biscuit short of 300 pounds. I'll knock Curry over and send him into the stanchion more often than not. Illinois is 4-0 against the spread in their last 4 as a favorite. They're 5-1 in their last 6 overall. They're 4-1 in their last 5 after a straight-up win. Meanwhile, Minnesota's just 1-5-1 against the spread in their last 7 at home against teams with a winning home or road record. And sadly, they're 0-3-1 against the spread in their last 4 at home. Now, yeah, Minnesota, they've played good basketball. I'm not going to take that away from them. They've beaten some good teams. They beat Michigan on the road. They beat Mississippi State on the road. They beat Pitt on the road. They beat Princeton on a neutral floor in double overtime. But now you're facing a team that has size and that will bully you. And we've seen Brad Underwood's team do that on a regular basis. And without somebody to contain Cockburn, it's going to be a tough night. You have to factor in Illinois' got 3 other guys that average in double figures, including Alfonso Plummer, who's putting up 17 a game. You have to think that the balanced scoring for Illinois is going to be too much for Minnesota to handle even at home. Ben Johnson drops to 10-2 on the year, and 1-2 in the Big Ten as Illinois gets the victory on the road.
You know, one of the big things about the Big Ten is it's a very physical league. And your point about Kofi Cockburn, being 7 foot and for all intents and purposes unstoppable when it comes to Minnesota's height and depth situation. It just, you look at this and you say, okay, the Illini -7. Where's Minnesota going to pick up the extra points?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, and like we talked about too, Minnesota's center is Eric Curry. He's 6'9", 240. Cockburn, like we said, is 7 foot and a biscuit shy of 3 bills. you're giving away 3 inches and nearly 60 pounds. And, that's not going to be an easy thing to contain. Their backup center, Charlie Daniels, is 6'9", 230, so he's giving up even more weight than Curry would. They don't play anybody bigger than 6'9" in their rotation, and that's not going to work when you got a guy like Cockburn who will just steamroll you. He's got, I think, 22 dunks or something like that already this season. You look at the losses that Illinois has. They lost by 1 at Marquette. They lost it by 4 at home to Arizona. And they were beaten by Cincinnati back in November in a game on a neutral floor. But they've already beaten Notre Dame. They've already beaten Rutgers. They beat Iowa on the road. And they're coming off a complete rolling of Missouri in the old rivalry game between those two and St. Louis. This game was actually supposed to be played Sunday. They moved it to Tuesday due to COVID issues. Underwood said some of his guys might be wearing masks on the floor, but we'll see about that. But Illinois is they're second in the nation by grabbing offensive boards on 41.6% of their misses. When you're giving up that kind of second chance points, you're very tough to beat, and that's something that Minnesota is going to have a lot of trouble with.
Indeed.
They have to hope Cockburn gets in foul trouble.
Yeah, quickly. All right, so from 2 games in the Midwest, we had.
Well, we get to stay in the Midwest, but it's a Big East game, so you figure it out.
It's the Big East meets Big. Well, it's the Providence Friars, who were original Big East members, joining the Marquette Golden Eagles, who are latter day members.
Where did Marquette start? Were they in the Metro with Louisville?
They were in the Metro, and then when the Big East decided to expand basketball-wise, Marquette and DePaul moved over from, the Milwaukee area and the Chicago area. So that's how that happened. So Providence is as I said, that's where Rick Pitino started his career. Back in the day when Rolly Massimino was at Villanova, and
Lou Carnesecco was at
St. John's. You had John Thompson at Georgetown. You had P.J. Carlissimo at Seton Hall. You had
Jim Boeheim still there.
In Syracuse. I'm not sure it's not Weekend at Bernie's in Syracuse, but we'll get into that at a different time. Anyway, the Friars.
Yes, surprisingly, they're a slight underdog in this one on the road, which doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, the Friars are 13-1 this year. Marquette's just 8-6. Providence, they beat DePaul over the weekend. They're 3-0 in the Big East. They were up by as many as 30 in that game before winning by 17. Marquette's lost 4 in a row. They lost in double overtime to Creighton over the weekend. Providence has won 8 in a row. Their one loss, a loss to Virginia on a neutral floor earlier this season. Marquette 116th in offensive efficiency. They're 187th in effective field goal percentage at 49.6%. They don't get a lot of offensive rebounds, and they don't shoot well from the perimeter. On top of that, you're facing a Providence team that is 43rd in the nation in scoring defense. They only give up 61.1 points a game. They hold opposing teams to 38.7% shooting, and effective field goal percentage is still 44.6. Providence are 7-0 in their last 7 as an underdog. They are 4-0 in their last 4 as a road underdog. They are 6-1 in their last 7 following a straight-up win. Marquette 1-8 against the spread in their last 9 home games against teams with a winning road record, and 1-7 in their last 8 at home against teams with a road winning percentage better than 600. Ed Cooley, he's done a great job at Providence. The Friars, they reloaded and retooled after last season. They've beaten some good teams. They're one of those teams that beat Wisconsin. They beat Wisconsin in Madison earlier this year. Mm-hmm. They beat Texas Tech. They've beaten Vermont. And we talk about, nobody really talks about Vermont, but Vermont's a very good team in the mid-majors. Mm-hmm. And they've beaten UConn, Seton Hall, and DePaul in the Big East already. You can't argue with a team that's 13-1. Mm-hmm. And Marquette is reeling. They're going the wrong way with 4 straight losses. You have to think that Providence can go on the road and go into Marquette and come out of there with a win.
Yep. The other part that you just said, and it's important, is that Providence is road tested. And I think that's critical too. I mean, 13.
Yeah, I mean, going into the Kohl Center there in Madison is no easy feat to walk out of there with a win as a road team. I'm sure Reichel could tell you about that, since that's his alma mater. But
Yeah.
I mean, we're not talking about you're not going and just beating up bad teams. I mean, Marquette, by comparison, Marquette lost at Wisconsin 89-76 back on December 4th.
Right.
So we already know that it's a tough environment. Marquette's also lost to UCLA, Xavier, and Connecticut before falling to Creighton. And like we just said, Providence already beat UConn, and they beat Wisconsin. So those are two teams that they've had in common where, Providence has had the upper hand and Marquette is not.
And there you go, boys and girls. Well, that concludes our trip down memory lane for tonight's college basketball action. We're moving on. And I think key here is that we actually have hockey tonight.
That's correct. There actually is hockey tonight, which is
not to be confused with last night when there was a game and a lot of postponements. So let's hear what we got going on this.
Well, real quick, Jim, that we have people asking about Texas and Kansas State. I haven't seen too much on the line movement on that game. Let me take a quick look at it. Texas favored by 6.5. Bruce Weber, he does a good job despite not having a ton of marquee names there. That he's 6-1 at home. Texas lost both their road games this season, which is kind of disconcerting a bit because they're 11-2. But I mean, can't count out a Chris Beard team. They lost to Seton Hall by 4. They lost to Gonzaga by 12. The problem that I have with it is the line might be a little bit too high. I mean, Texas is one of the slowest paced teams in the league. They're 358 out of 358 teams in tempo. Obviously, Beard relies on defense over offense. And who's gonna step up and score for this Texas team besides Courtney Ramey and Andrew Jones is going to be my big concern. Dylan Disu, I'm surprised they haven't used him more of late. They got him as a transfer from Vanderbilt. I figured he would have been more of a factor. Kansas State, they play good at home. Like I said, their one home loss was a 1-point defeat to Marquette, who we just talked about. They've beaten, no one really of consequence, but they did beat Wichita State on the road, which is something. I like Texas, but I don't know about 6.5 points just because of the fact that, like I said, the Longhorns don't score a ton.
Well, we'll find out tonight. And clearly, the best basketball team in the state of Texas is in Waco. So
yeah, that's a definite on that one. Yeah. And as we go to hockey, of course, Euler remembers what we talked about when it comes to the Arizona Coyotes. We're talking about the Cactus.
They're back, Euler.
And it's the bastardization of Winnipeg is the artists formerly, or the Winnipeg Jets are on the road to face the team formerly known as the Winnipeg Jets. That's right, the Coyotes. Or as we like to say here, the Cactus. I like the Jets with the puck line. Winnipeg 15-11-5 of the season. Arizona 6-21-3. Despite their offensive outburst in the last two games where we talk about here, the Coyotes have scored 13 times in their last two games. That's more than they score in a month most of the time. The Coyotes are still last in the league in goals per game at 2.1. They're still last in the league in goals against by giving up 3.8. And they give up 4.23 goals per game on home ice. That's not a good number for success if you're one of the three fans that still claim that they like the Kachina doll jerseys that the Coyotes wear.
Right.
Arizona's 8-20 in their last 28 at home. They're 8-24 in their last 32, playing on 1 day of rest. They're 2-9 in their last 11 on Tuesday. They're 1-4 in their last 5 against the Western Conference. Winnipeg's won 16 of the last 22 meetings between these teams. I know Arizona went on the road and beat Winnipeg last month by the whopping score of 1-0. But you can't expect the Coyotes to play that good of defense against the same opponent twice in a row. I like Winnipeg. They've turned the corner a little bit since Paul Maurice resigned. They've won a couple in a row. They got a little bit of momentum here. They're facing a team in Arizona that obviously can't keep the puck out of their own net to save their lives. Look for Winnipeg to go down to the desert, go to the Gila River Arena, and come out with a victory.
You were talking about the jerseys and the hats. I have a feeling in Phoenix that there's a lot more people who are wearing the merch than are going to the games or watching them on television. So it's one of those things where wearing the laundry is good, but it doesn't translate into wins, and that's why we like to call them the Cactus. So enough of them. Let's go on to some teams that actually can play.
Yeah, we'll go down to the Sunshine State down there in Sunrise at the FLA Live Arena, where the Flames are on the road to face the Panthers. The Flames 17-7-6, the Panthers 21-7-4. Panthers are 17-3 at home this season. They have recorded the second most home victories in the first 20 home games of the season in NHL history, only behind the Boston Bruins back in the 30s, who were 18-2. But they're facing a Calgary team that isn't afraid to go on the road. They're 13-4-2 as the road team this season. Big matchup is the Panthers. They're second in the league in goals for at 3.78 per game, but they're facing a stout Calgary defense that's second in goals against by only allowing 2.23 goals a night. The Flames average 3.2 goals themselves this season, which is 10th overall, but that number goes up to 3.53 goals per game on the road. Calgary's gone 7-2 in their last 9 on the road. They're 16-5 in their last 21 when their opponent scores 5 goals or more in their last game. They're 6-2 in their last 8 after a win. Meanwhile, Florida 1-5 in their last 6 against Pacific Division teams. Calgary 5-2 in their last 7 in Florida. They've won 7 of the last 9 meetings overall. And key points for the Panthers: they won't have Sam Bennett. He was suspended 3 games for a hit to the head on Cedric Paquette of the Canadiens the other night. Also out Mason Marchment and Sam Reinhart. They're in the COVID protocols. So is assistant coach Tuomo Ruutu. And unlike what the Panthers have seen in the last couple of games when they scored 9 on Tampa Bay against backup goaltenders and then 5 on Montreal with Samuel Montembeault, it's going to be Jacob Markstrom in net for Calgary tonight. He's turned in some big numbers, leads the league with 5 shutouts. Look for the Flames to surprise some people and get a road win in this one.
Who's in the net for the Panthers tonight?
I believe it's supposed to be Bobrovsky. Let me double-check real quick here. Last I had heard it was going to be him. I don't think they're going to go to Jonas Johansson.
No.
At least you would hope not. Because
unless they had to.
Yeah, they confirmed that it's going to be Bobrovsky earlier this morning. So you will see the matchup of Markstrom and Bobrovsky in goal in that contest. Should be a good one.
Yeah, I was going to say that's not a bad tandem.
Yeah, I mean Markstrom has he's put up some big numbers. I mean Calgary, made a wise decision picking him up. He's turned in a record so far 12-6-5. His goals against is 199. And he's got a 930 save percentage to go with those 5 shutouts. Bobrovsky 14-3-2, 247 goals against, 918 save percentage. He's yet to blank anyone this season. But when you score as often as Florida does, you probably don't really need to blank anyone.
No.
To get a victory. I mean, we've seen that with regularity. One interesting thing that you're going to have to watch out for Florida as the season wears on. They played 20 games at home this season. This will be game number 21. They've only played 12 on the road. They're 4-4-4 away from the FL Live Arena.
Well, from sunrise, we go from sunrise to sunset, and we move on out to Anaheim.
We're going to go to the Honda Center where the Ducks facing the Flyers tonight. Flyers are a 500 team overall and on the road. They're 13-13-6 overall. They're 7-7-4 on the road. The Ducks 17-11-7 overall. They're 10-4-4 on home ice. Philadelphia, they're 21st in the league in goals against at 3.22. They're 26th in scoring offense at 2.66 goals a night. But on the road, their offense dries up. They average just 2.11 goals a game as the visiting team. The Ducks, 16th in goals per game. They average 3 a night. They're 11th in goals against at 2.71. But that number drops down to 2.33 on home ice. So they play better defensively at home. The Flyers 3-9 in their last 12 on the road. They're 2-8 in their last 10 as a road underdog. They're 1-6 in their last 7 after losing by at least 3 goals. Meanwhile, Anaheim's won their last 5 on Tuesday. They're 7-1 in their last 8 as a favorite. They're 5-1 in their last 6 as a home favorite, and they're 9-2 in their last 11 against teams with a losing record. The Flyers are expected to turn to none other than Well, I don't know about that. They're talking about Carter Hart, but last I checked, Hart's in the protocol, so I don't think he's going to be starting tonight. So it could be Martin Jones, John Gibson to get the call between the pipes for the Ducks, because why not?
Yeah. Okay, somebody's got to do it. He's there.
And he's the better option probably than Anthony Stolars.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Stolars has played in a backup role this season. I mean, the Flyers, they're just inconsistent. They can't put together anything, any kind of, regular attack.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a problem for them.
Yeah, and then you go out to Anaheim and, in the shadow of Disneyland and Knott's Berry Farm, and you have a good time, and, the Mighty Ducks send you back home. So, Philadelphia is not the Broad Street Bullies on the road, that's for sure. All right, so we're in between. We've had college basketball, pro basketball. Time to move on to the association, no?
Yep.
All right.
We're headed to the NBA where the Suns go down to the Big Easy to face the Pelicans. Everybody knows how well Phoenix has played this season. They're 28-8 on the year. New Orleans 13-24. The Suns 12-4 on the road this season. New Orleans just 7-10 at home. New Orleans playing the second game of back-to-back. They played the Jazz last night and fell 115-104 as a 10-point underdog. So if you picked Utah minus 10, you came up a winner. If you picked New Orleans plus 10, you came up a point short. Just the way it works sometimes. New Orleans 1-5 in the second game of back-to-back situations this season. They are outscored by 9 points a game in those situations. Meanwhile, Phoenix 4-0 against the spread in their last 4 on Tuesday. They're 6-2 in their last 8 when their opponent gives up at least 100 points in their last game. New Orleans is just 3-7 in their last 10 against teams with a winning percentage above 600. Suns have gone 4-1 against the spread in the last 5 meetings, and they've won 6 of the last 8 overall straight up. The latest injury report that I saw has DeAndre Ayton and Jay Crowder among those missing for the Suns. But they've got so many weapons with Devin Booker and CP3 and Cameron Johnson, all those guys, it probably doesn't really matter. I mean, the Pelicans, they've had issues. Obviously, they haven't had Zion Williamson all season. Mm-hmm. And that's a big blow to them, obviously, because anytime you got a guy that looks like a human bowling ball at 6'6" and going 275 or whatever, running the point, it makes things a little bit more interesting. But without him, the Pelicans, they've struggled. And, they have issues on both ends of the floor. They're 25th in scoring offense. They're 23rd in scoring defense. And you're facing a Phoenix team that's 3rd in scoring offense, 5th in scoring defense. So, I mean, you're facing massive disadvantages in both categories. Plus, the Suns are rested. They bombed Charlotte by 34 on Sunday. They were off yesterday. Meanwhile, New Orleans lost at home. You have to like the Suns, give them the points.
So at least New Orleans was at home then. They lost to you.
That's true.
So that there's something that to say for that. But a quick turnaround, even at this time of the year, those legs are not as spry as they were when they get some rest. So we're looking at the Pelicans probably dipping into that bench, and that bench ain't that deep.
No, and it's not that good either.
Yeah. So all right, so we Phoenix, one of the 2 best teams in the league. We move from there to
we're gonna go north of the border here for the
2 of the not best teams in the league.
Yeah, the Spurs and the Raptors. I look for this one to go over the 224 mark when you get down to it. Spurs 14-21, the Raptors 16-17. But the Spurs, they're 5th in the league in scoring offense. They average 111.5 points a game. And like we've talked about several times before, it's a unlike Greg Popovich's normal team, as they're 3rd in the league in tempo, averaging 100.3 possessions per contest. Toronto's finally healthy. They got back almost all their guys. They're only missing Goran Dragic, who hasn't been with the team since November. David Johnson out with a calf injury. Isaac Bonga is questionable. So they'll have a full complement of players, which has to be a nice thing for Nick Nurse after going through games without Siakam and Van Vliet and OG Anunoby and all those other guys, Scotty Barnes. You get down to it, the Spurs 6-1 has seen the overhit in their last 7 games on 2 days of rest. Spurs have gone over in 8 of the last 10 against an opponent that gave up at least 100 points in their last game. Toronto coming off a 120-105 win over the Knicks. San Antonio has also seen the over go 4-1 in their last 5 against teams with a losing record. Toronto's gone over the total in each of their last 7 games, and that goes back to that stretch where they were missing so many players.
Mm-hmm.
It's gone over in their last 6 following a double-digit win, and over in their last 5 following a straight-up win. And 8 of the last 11 meetings between these teams, I know they only meet twice a year, but 8 of the last 11 in Toronto have gone over the total. With the way Popovich's team is playing at that fast tempo and the Raptors being healthy, you have to think that this one's going to be another one that ends up over the mark.
Yeah, let me ask you a quick question. You took the over at 224, which definitely, I think you're right there. Is this a game where you think that the Raptors, because they're healthy, might take it straight up?
They definitely have the opportunity to. I mean, DeJounte Murray is out for San Antonio. I mean, he's their do-everything guy at point guard. The issue that I have, it's a 7-point line. I mean, and you have to be concerned as to whether, Nurse will ease off the gas if they build up a lead. I know San Antonio also won't have Lonnie Walker, DeJounte Murray, and possibly Doug McDermott. But the way San Antonio plays with that fast pace, they could probably hang around. If you were playing it straight up, I would probably favor Toronto just because of the fact that they're at home and we've seen San Antonio struggle. They lost to Detroit, of all teams, in overtime the other night on the road. They lost to Memphis on the road before that. Meanwhile, Toronto, they've won 2 straight. They beat the Clippers at home. They beat the Knicks at home. So, yeah, you could take Toronto, but I just don't know about giving 7 points at this point in time.
Yeah, winning 7 might be too much. So,
if it comes down, then I would consider it, but that's just me. I mean, some people will jump on it.
But the over at 224 is a good that one looks good. That looks pretty solid.
Yeah, that's where I'm leaning here.
Okay, cool. All right, well, are we finished with the association?
Nope, we got one more.
One more. Okay, go ahead.
And it's the Knicks and our favorite team to fade.
The Pacers.
Like our friend Elliot was talking about last week, the Indiana Pacers. This game coming to you from Madison Square Garden. Indiana 14-23 this year. The Knicks 17-20. Indiana's lost 4 in a row. They fell 108-104 at Cleveland Sunday night. That game was actually a push as Indiana was a 4-point underdog. But Indiana 3-14 on the road this season. Not a pretty number to look at. They also are expected to be missing Malcolm Brogdon, Chris Duarte, Karis LeVert, and Jeremy Lamb, all out in the protocols. Also not playing tonight, Reggie Miller, Rick Smits, Vern Fleming, and Detlef Schrempf. Indiana 1-4 in their last 5 on Tuesday. They're 1-3-1 in their last 5 on the road against teams with a home winning percentage below 400. They're 0-3-1 against the spread in their last 4 on the road. The Knicks 10-1 in their last 11 on Tuesday. They're 4-1 in their last 5 against teams with a winning percentage below 400. And the Knicks have gone 14-6 against the spread in the last 20 meetings between these teams in the Big Apple. I know the Knicks are missing some pieces, but let's face it, you're taking out 4 double-digit scorers out of the mix for Indiana, and they've been brutal on the road. Julius Randle is questionable tonight, so is Mitchell Robinson. As they try to come back out of the protocols for the Knicks. I just think New York has a little bit more depth, and plus they're playing at home. Tom Thibodeau will get the most out of his team there to come up with the victory.
I'm going to throw a prop bet out there for anybody, and that is over and under on the possibility of an Antonio Brown sighting at Madison Square Garden. He was at the Barclays Center last night. Let's see if he goes across town to take on him.
I'll put the yes at minus 120. Just because he apparently doesn't have anything else to do but just hang around and be a pain.
You're juicing it up there, but yeah, I'm not. We'll see if Antonio shows up, but definitely the Knicks are going to show up. That's for sure. All right, so we finished the association. We finished college. It's time for, that's right, there's still bowls. That's right, still bowls. Less now than a week away from the national championship game, we give you a bowl game. And it's intriguing.
Yeah, it's the Tax Act Texas Bowl.
Yeah, try saying that right like that.
Kansas State's going to face LSU. LSU finished the year 6-6. They beat Texas A&M in the final week of the season to get to bowl eligibility. The Kansas State finished 7-5. Brad Davis, the offensive line coach for LSU, will be the interim coach tonight. Of course, Ed Orgeron stepped down earlier this season, and Brian Kelly, the $95 million man, will take over after the season after he was lured away from Notre Dame. Big issues for LSU is they've got opt-outs. They lost the star linebacker Damone Clark, defensive tackle Neil Farrell Jr., and earlier today, running back Tyrion Davis-Price, who ran for 1,004 yards, have opted out of this game for LSU. Meanwhile, Skylar Thompson, the seemingly 37th year quarterback for Kansas State, is expected to play tonight. He missed the last couple of games of the regular season. And, of course, Swiss Army knife Deuce Vaughn leading the offense in the run game for Kansas State. Kansas State, they're good defensively. They're 37th in total defense, 27th against the run, and 29th in scoring defense, giving up 21.1 points a game. Kansas State 3-0-1 in their last four after giving up more than 200 yards on the ground, which was a rarity for them. 4-1 in their last five neutral site games is a favorite, and they are 39-16-2 in their last 57 following an ATS loss. Let's face it, LSU is going through the motions. They're playing for an interim coach. They're just waiting for Brian Kelly to come in. They lost two of their studs defensively. They lost their best running back. They don't have a ton of big threats in the passing game. And Kansas State, they actually have guys that are playing.
Kansas State in the Big 12, I'm sorry. They played very well. I mean, they had losses, no question, but they were in pretty much every game they played. They didn't get blown out by anyone. And so, there's no reason for them to be intimidated by an LSU team that, as you said, that is without a coach until Brian Kelly takes over the reins sometime after midnight tonight when this game's over.
Yeah, like you said, Kansas State's biggest loss was a 13-point loss to Iowa State, but I believe Iowa State scored late in that game to make it a two-score margin. Yeah. So, I mean, other than that, they hung tough. They lost to Baylor by 10, playing a third-string quarterback. They lost to Texas by 5. They lost to Oklahoma by 6. And they lost to Oklahoma State by 11. So, I mean, they weren't blown out by anyone, like you said. Meanwhile, you're looking at an LSU team that was wishy-washy at best. They lost their opener at UCLA, and they won 3 straight. Then they lost 5 of 6, including a 3-touchdown loss at Kentucky. And their only win in that stretch was over Dan Mullen in Florida.
Yeah, I know.
And then they came back and won their last 2 games. They beat Louisiana Monroe, whoop-de-doo, and Texas A&M, who basically was, Jimbo's team basically folded up and didn't even play in a bowl game because of COVID and transfer issues. So I just don't have faith in LSU right now.
Well, and if I'm not mistaken, and it's not a big deal, but when they did lose to Iowa State, I think Iowa State was ranked at the time.
I believe you're correct. Let me take a quick look here because I still have the page up. Iowa State wasn't ranked. They fell out, I think, the week before. But still, Iowa State they weren't a slouch team by any stretch of the imagination.
Not at all.
Actually, after they beat Kansas State, they went back into the rankings.
There you go. All right, before we head off to the important part of the program, which is, of course, 2 for the money, 4 for the show, and go crazy, everybody. Let's talk about our friends and sponsors, Caesar Sportsbook. Now, here's the deal. This is for first-time gamblers with Caesar Sportsbook. What they're going to do, because they like us here at Winners and Whiners, they've got good taste, they're going to give you a match of dollar for dollar up to $1,000 on your first wager that you make, either on their app or on their online service. So you make a $100 bet, they'll match it. They make $200, you make $400. Whatever it is, up to $1,000, they're going to match you dollar for dollar. Okay. All the information on this deal is in the show box below. And remember, it doesn't work at all unless you use that promo code, which is Video Winners. And that is your special code for watching us here on Winners and Whiners, okay? So by all means, use that promo code. You must be 21 years of age or older to play. And as we always say here, as we said earlier in the day, Chris and I always tell you that gamble responsibly, okay? It is something that we at Winners and Whiners like to talk about all the time, that we want you to have fun, we want you to enjoy, we also want you to be responsible, as does our friends at Caesar Sportsbook. So check out Caesar Sportsbook, first-time wagerers on their app or online. All you got to do to get that match is to use the promo code in our show box below. Okay? All right, cool. All right, time to go.
One last thing to throw in about that LSU game, Jim.
Sure.
They don't know who's going to play quarterback for LSU. Miles Brennan still hurt. TJ Finley, of course, transferred to Auburn before the season started. Max Johnson, who was the starter all year, transferred to Texas A&M. So there's another one for Jimbo. So they're talking about trying to get the NCAA to let them play Garrett Nussmeier for a fifth game without burning his red shirt. Good luck with that one.
We got a better chance of Joe Burrows coming back from Cincinnati to play.
So it's going to be an interesting night for LSU at quarterback and just an offense on general.
Yeah.
So, meanwhile, Kansas State, their entire senior class playing today anyway, so it just makes it that much more complex for the Tigers.
The purple and silver. All right, Wildcats. All right, so here we go with two for the money. And a couple of interesting bets for this one.
Yeah, like we said, I like the Suns over the Pelicans. I just don't have a ton of faith in New Orleans, especially playing the second game of back-to-back. I know they're at home, so at least they didn't have to travel, but the fact remains they're still not all that great. Meanwhile, you got Winnipeg on the puck line over the Coyotes. We've talked about Arizona repeatedly. I don't need to beat the dead horse of the fact that they're last in most categories in the league. Then we've got the Ducks over the Flyers. I'm just not sold on Philadelphia. They can't put together anything kind of consistent play on a regular basis. And Providence, you've won 8 in a row. You've beaten some good teams. You're going on the road and you're an underdog, but you're facing a Marquette team that's lost 4 in a row. You have to like the way Providence played basketball. They just beat a good DePaul team over the weekend. Take the points in Providence.
Let's talk about 4 for the show. There's some fun stuff to be had there as well.
Yeah, like we said earlier, Illinois -7 over Minnesota. I like what Ben Johnson's done, but he has a short bench. He has no size. Kofi Cockburn, like we said, averaging 21-plus and 12 boards a game. He will bowl over Minnesota, whoever they try to put at center. And the only way the Golden Gophers can keep him shut down is if he gets himself in foul trouble. I like the Illinois there. I actually like the Avalanche over the Blackhawks with the puck line. Colorado, they're a very dangerous offensive team. They lead the league in goals per game. Chicago is 30th in the league in goals per game. Their defense hasn't been all that great either. And Darcy Kemper, he's stabilized the net for Colorado since coming back from injury. Look for that to pan out there. Then, like we said, the Knicks over the Pacers. You can fade Indiana all the time. They're 3-14 on the road. They're missing 4 key guys. You're down to basically Domantas Sabonis and Miles Turner if he feels like playing offensively there. And the Spurs and Raptors to go over 224.5. Like we said, Toronto's gone over in their last 7 games. San Antonio plays at the 3rd fastest tempo in the league, and they're 5th in scoring offense. Potential for a lot of points there.
Mm-hmm. All right, so now this is the part of the show that we all like, and that is, as we said, this is an homage to the late Jack Buck, and that is go crazy, folks. Here's your shot in the dark, an opportunity to pick any number of these. You can pick 2, you can pick 4, you can pick them all. Just whatever you feel like. And Chris, I'll turn it over to you to explain the process.
Well, like Jim just said, you can pick 2, you can pick 4, you can pick 18, whatever. You can mix them with some of the ones we already have on the board, whatever works for you. I like Western Michigan. They're getting 2.5 points at home against Eastern Michigan in the battle of the Great Lakes State. I'm surprised Western Michigan is an underdog at home, considering Eastern Michigan is 0-6 on the road. Now, I get that Eastern Michigan is 5-6 and Western Michigan is 4-9, but Eastern Michigan, like I said, they haven't beaten anybody on the road this season. They're coming off a 12-point loss at Valparaiso in their last game. I like to think Western Michigan can defend the home floor over there in Kalamazoo and come up with the victory. Staking in the MAC, I like Kent State -2 over Ball State on the road. The Golden Flashes, they've got some good players over there, and they're not intimidated by going into Muncie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who it is. We talked about earlier, the best team in Texas in college basketball is in Waco, and that's where Baylor is tonight. They're a 12-point favorite over Oklahoma. Porter Mosher has done a great job with the Sooners, but you're facing the defending national champs, and Bryce Drew's team is just wrecked teams at home. Ask Villanova about that. Wake Forest -1.5 at home over Florida State. Leonard Hamilton, I like him. He's a good coach. He's done some great things down there in Tallahassee. But they've been up and down this season, and, Wake Forest is unbeaten at home. Steve Forbes has done a really good job in Winston-Salem with the Demon Deacons. Look for them there. I put Colorado in here again. I meant to put the money line in there as a prohibitive one. That's why I probably screwed it up and put the puck line again. But I don't think the Avalanche have any problems with the Blackhawks. Chicago is struggling. They got waxed by Calgary the other night. Tampa Bay and Columbus, I look to go over 6. I'm not sure if Tampa Bay's gotten anyone out of protocol as far as goaltending yet. Let me take a quick look and see if we're still leaning towards.
I didn't see Vasilevsky off that list this morning, but they could.
Okay, well, then odds are we'll see, the awesome duo of Hugo Alnefelt and Maxime Legacy, because I don't see anything about Brian Elliott or Vasilevsky coming out as of yet.
Maybe what we should do is have the Lightning pick up the phone and call the the Lakeland, our Lakeland Magic, the team that we like to move up and down the I-4 corridor, and they can come over and maybe help out with some goalkeeping.
That could help.
Shot blockers. Yes.
Yeah, Tampa Bay is an excellent offensive team anyway. We've seen them pile up goals. Columbus can score, especially if there's a backup goaltender in net. Look for that to go over the number. Vegas at home, I like over Nashville. I know the Golden Knights are banged up a little bit, but the Predators, they're not a great road team. And playing in Vegas seems to be a difficult task for anybody. Then we've got the Lakers over the Kings. Sacramento, at last check, has in the protocols or out tonight would be Terrence Davis, Richaun Holmes, Lewis King, Neemias Queta, and Jamius Ramsey are all down in the G League on assignment. Terrence Davis questionable. LeBron is probable tonight with an abdominal strain for the Lakers. Avery Bradley also probable. They, of course, will be without Anthony Davis, but that's been ongoing for a couple weeks now. But you have to figure with James and Westbrook, it's enough to beat the depleted Kings. Memphis +2.5 over Cleveland. Memphis just finds ways to win. John Morant is playing some great basketball. And the Grizzlies are a tough team. Cleveland's expected to be without C.D. Osman and Isaac Okoro, of course, Ricky Rubio and Colin Sexton, both done for the year with knee injuries. And finally, we talked about the TaxAct Texas Bowl. I look for LSU and Kansas State to stay under 47.5. Kansas State doesn't give up a ton of points as it is. LSU has no quarterback at the moment that we know of. They also lost their best running back. You have to wonder where the offensive yardage is going to come from for the Tigers. It could be one of those slugfests where you don't see very many points at all, kind of like we've seen on Monday night the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Look for that game to fall short of the total.
That and the folks at Kansas State like to run the ball.
That's true too.
They'll burn clock, and you were just saying that LSU didn't have a quarterback, so that doesn't bode well for a passing game when you don't have somebody to throw it. So,
yeah, no quarterback, and their starting running back who had 1,000 yards opted out. So
yeah, other than that, they're fine. Yes,
exactly.
They're all set. And you wonder why Ed Orgeron left.
Insert Jim Moore talking about we couldn't run the ball, we couldn't complete a pass, we couldn't get a first down here.
Right. Other than that, everything was fine. So anyway, all right. So that's it. Any final thoughts before we get out of here? Some things that tonight, through that entire tremendous list of options you've given our folks, any couple, pop out to you that makes you say, these might be the two best of the evening?
Well, I mean, I think Illinois is about as good as you can get. I mean, like I said, they're not going to be Minnesota can't stop Cockburn. They don't have the size. They don't have the ability, and they don't crash the glass well anyway. And then, as much as I hate to say it, you got to fade the Pacers because the Pacers are, well, they're bad on the road.
With the Pacers,
they're missing four key guys. I mean, if Randall comes back like they're hoping and stuff, I know Kemba Walker probably won't play tonight. But the Knicks, they're at home, and the way Indiana's played on the road, 3-14, it just doesn't inspire confidence. The Knicks only giving 2.5 points. I think that's a safe bet.
All right, folks, there you go. We've had a lot of fun with you. Before you leave, on your way out, do us a favor, smash the like button. We'll be back tomorrow at 1:30, where we will once again take a look at what happened the night before and talk about what's going to happen on a very busy Wednesday night in college basketball. As far as the ice is concerned, it looks like it might be busy, but you never know because it is, of course, the NHL. And the association will be playing. I don't think there's a bowl game for tomorrow.
Nope, this is the last bowl game before the national team.
Before the big one. So, all right. We've enjoyed having you, and we will be back tomorrow at 1:30. For Chris King, I'm Jim Williams saying so long, everybody, and we will see you tomorrow.